Hey guys, this is AgentMindStorm, and welcome back to Cubes and Contemplations. Today we're talking about objectivity, the idea of no opinion being injected into an idea, which is funny because this is an opinion series, so I'm giving my opinion on not having an opinion. If you can't tell, that we are going back to less literal topics today. Like, last episode is probably going to be an outlier, hopefully. We might do something like that again. I have some other ideas I might want to talk about later, but for now, I much more enjoy talking about these conceptual things than literal things. Objectivity is one of the many words recently ruined by incorrect usage. We've seen the same situation with literally recently, where it went from being a word described when something is actually happening to just another word used to emphasize a situation. So why do I consider this worth talking about? Well, when a word is used incorrectly, sometimes it changes meanings, like I just said with literally. Usually, changing the meaning is fine. Most of the time, I'm completely okay with it. For an example, the word revert. If we all started using the word revert to mean reply, that would be fine with me, because we have so many alternatives that we can do instead. We have rewind, we have change back, we have undo, so many more that I haven't even listed that mean pretty much the same thing as revert, and you can fill the exact same niche with it. On the other hand, objective is a very important word, and it doesn't really have any easy alternatives. You can say without opinion or unbiased, but I think that that implies that a bias could be present in the first place, which is sort of not the point of objectivity. I'm not sure if not the point is the right idea, but I think that objective doesn't imply that a bias could be there, while unbiased certainly does. So how have we gotten here? How have we gotten to a point where objective is used incorrectly? A lot of people don't seem to understand why something is objective or not. An objective statement is built of words that are not defined by an opinion. If a word is built on the speaker's opinion, it can't be objective. That sounds confusing, but believe me, you'll understand it in about a second. The easiest way to explain this is that the word tasty, this cookie is tasty, that is entirely dependent on the person talking about the food. A lot of people find squid really tasty. They love to eat it. And then so many more people will tell you, no, squids are disgusting, they are not tasty. The word tasty is just being used to say, I like the way this tastes. It is an opinion word. There is no objective tasty, because tasty is always an opinion. On the other end of the scale, we have the word glass. The word glass is always going to be objective. No matter what you think about glass, if it's a transparent plate of, I don't know what glass is made of, sand? If it's glass, you can't disagree that a plate is made out of glass. That's an objective statement. There are no opinion words in that. The biggest tripping point that people stumble on all the time are the ideas that something can be objectively good and objectively bad. This is the original reason I wanted to make this episode, because I kept seeing people saying this, and it's wrong. The easiest response, and the one that I held for a really long time, in fact, is that, oh, something can't be objectively good because good is an opinion word, so you cannot have an objective good or an objective bad. But I thought about that a little bit more recently, and I realized that that too is incorrect. The stumbling point is not good and bad. The stumbling point is words that can have multiple meanings, and some are opinion meanings, and some are objective meanings. The words good and bad can be objective with the addition of two simple words. For you, water is good for humans. That is objective. I just used the word good in an objective statement. You can't argue with that. You have to agree. Water is good for humans. Unless you have some weird condition, you cannot disagree that water is good. That is an objective statement. There is no such thing as good writing or bad taste, because the use of the words good and bad there require an opinion behind them. I like good writing that is witty, but a lot of people might not like witty writing, so they would say it's bad writing, and we can have different opinions on the same thing because it's a subjective opinion, it's not objective. But the statement food that's good for you is objective. When you're talking about a food that's good for you, if it is beneficial for the human body, you can't argue with that. That is an objective good. Oh, I have this line in the notes after that food that's good for you line that says, as I was writing this line, I thought about how the word good and the word food are almost the same, and then laughed inside about the statement, food is good for you. This is not relevant to the episode at all, but food is good for you. Another point of confusion is general consensus. A lot of people will think that just because most people agree with something, that becomes the objective opinion on it, which is wrong. Just because most people will tell you that Sonic 06 wasn't good doesn't mean that it's objectively bad or objectively not good. It's something that happens so much, too. You see, everyone agrees that The Last of Us 2 did everything wrong. It's objectively bad. You can't argue with that. But a general consensus, even if it was a general consensus, which usually whenever people are saying that everyone agrees with something, they don't all agree with something because they're bringing out that fact in an argument in the first place. So, general consensus is completely separate from objectivity. They are completely separate things that should not even touch. The idea of information becoming facts just because lots of people believe it is pretty scary when you think about it. Most people probably hold some opinions that go against the general opinion of the internet. Imagine being incorrect for holding that opinion instead of just knowing that other people have varying opinions. Thankfully, since we have so many people on Earth and the internet connecting us all, or, a large chunk of us, we are reminded that opinions are not facts and thankfully will not be. That's the end of that little diversion talk. I just thought the general consensus thing was so important. Everyone agrees you are wrong. It's just nothing. That doesn't mean anything. Yes, most people probably agree that it's a good idea to walk on your feet and not your hands, but that doesn't mean it's objectively wrong. It may be objectively bad for you. Oh, see how I did that? I brought back that old thing, but it's not objectively wrong. I guess the important thing to talk about is what can we do about the word objective being used incorrectly so much? Obviously not the entire world is watching this video, and even if the entire world did, a lot of them would probably disagree with me or wouldn't believe me that objective means without bias. The easiest way I think we can start is, I cannot ask you enough, stop using it when you're discussing liking or disliking things. That is the quickest way, the quickest railroad to saying it wrong. That just perpetuates the cycle of people seeing that, assuming that's how it's used, and then saying it wrong themselves. If you're discussing, I don't know, whether the Treaty of Versailles had a positive or negative impact on the future, drop the word objective from your opinion statements completely. Just leave it out. You don't need it. There's a lot of other words you can use. Ideally, you'd choose a word whose meaning is actually used for emphasization. I can't say enough. It's easiest just to not use the word objective at all. Just don't do it. The better thing to do is to use the word objectively correctly, or at least back up your opinions with something objective. I've written out a pretty complicated example here. Basically, little background, the Smash Bros. Ultimate game on Nintendo Switch, the online mode, a lot of fans complain about it because it has pretty bad input lag and the game keeps freezing because it uses lockstep movement. Basically, the online mode has received a lot of negative feedback. I have created 2 statements that we could make that are this objective example. Here's the first one. This online connectivity is so horrible, it's objectively bad. Come on, Nintendo. And the second one is I hate the online battles in Ultimate. The input delay is ridiculous. Those 2 statements, you might think, oh, the first one was objectively wrong because it said objectively in it. But then you heard the second one and you're like, wait, this is expressing the same amount of hate. Because hatred is not the problem here. The problem is that the first doesn't back its statement up with any objective fact, even though the speaker states the mode is objectively bad. There's no facts in that statement, it's all opinion. The second statement is still expressing hatred, it's just as angry, but instead, it uses a statement combining an objective fact with a subjective opinion to make its case. The statement, "this input delay is ridiculous," tells us immediately that the speaker has experienced input delay, which is an objective fact, and that the speaker did not like it, which is a subjective opinion. That instantly tells us, with those 5 words, exactly how they feel about a thing that can happen. So the second statement overall is more helpful because it, 1, helps other players understand what they dislike about the mode, and 2, it tells Nintendo what players would like to see changed. That's how we can improve the way that you say the word objective. Ideally, though, just don't say it, because when it will be used, you should know, and when it shouldn't be used, it's always when you want to use it, basically. If you're ever using it in an argument, this is back to the first point, just don't. So, that's the end of today's episode. What a nice ending. Just don't use it at all. At least you hopefully came away from this video with a real understanding of what objective was. However, there's always the chance that I have misjudged this horribly. Tell me in the comments if I have horrifically misjudged the situation and I'm actually completely wrong about objective. Am I objectively incorrect? Am I objectively wrong for being incorrect? Those questions, the first one is up to interpretation. The second one is always no. You should have gotten that from what we learned today. Anyways, that's the end of today's episode. I hope your discussions will be more technically correct, but for now, I do want to tell you all, thanks for watching, and I will see you later.